Kalimera, Julia.
Kalimera, Edith. Boker tov.
Yes, good morning. Tikanis.
I'm well. Kala. מה נשמע?
נשמע טוב. פוליקלה. פוליקלה. I don't know how to say that I'm not okay, so.
There's not an option in Greece.
Okay. So I'm synchronized, and this brings us to this second meeting of Exploring Reality, because you actually suggested that we focus on synchronization.
Yes, it was a good word left from our last conversation.
Right.
It created a lot of thoughts.
Right. I'm ready to start about synchronization, and you stop me, and whenever you want.
Please do.
Okay, so I'd like to start with a story. It happened to me last week. I have a grandson. His name is Yam, and I'm in love with him. He's
I'm in love with him.
Yeah. He's 1 year and 3 months. And up until now, I spoke with him like, Yam, do you want to eat? Or do you want a tomato? Do you want to play music? Or go outside? Or go for a walk? And he wouldn't answer in words. He had a language, but it wasn't in words. And last week, he started to answer yes. Actually, he started to answer no before the yes, which is clear, and we can spend time about it in some other exploration of reality. But this time he really answered, and there was a certain shock in me when it happened, because it established a two-way communication. And I start with this because actually we live in a system of communication. The whole solar system is a system of communication. And there are bodies and certain strata of life that only receives signals. As a young child, it receives and receives and receives, and there is no response. But there is a certain moment when response starts. And this establishes a two-way communication. It's a circuitry. And from this moment on, if you'd like, it's like two computers connected to each other. Or we could also say it's two processors connected to each other. Or we could say it's two observers connected to each other. And the two observers are in different locations in space-time. So they are informing each other. Now, this should be the first lesson in every school, that welcome everybody. We all live in this system of communications, and we are here to receive signals and capture them. But it's not enough to capture them in a non-conscious way, because this is how we capture them. We have to do a whole process with them that we are not educated to do. Because our receptors, the human receptors, are very, very, very interfered. We spent some time in the first conversation explaining the interference or describing some of the interference, but we need to understand that the interference is very, very, very deep. It goes to our very basic perceptions of life and beliefs and fundamentals. So when the receptor is interfered, there cannot be an establishment of communication. It's like speak to someone and you are not being received. So it all comes back to you, or it is being loaded somewhere. Okay, so I start with this because the word system isn't always very clear to us. I was reading about the immunity system. What I found there is very interesting. When the immunity system is processing information in order to manufacture its response, its quality depends on the synchronicity amongst its parts. The system cannot work well without synchronicity. I don't know how you say it, synchronicity or synchronization. I might be Hebrewizing or Spanishizing the English, but I understood. Yeah.
We all understood the point. It's the same root.
Okay. You actually might be able to offer some of the Greek roots.
Synchronismos. Syn is when you put two things together.
Right. Okay.
In another level, it is also adding up things.
Right.
But it's joining. Right. It's putting two things together.
Right.
Yeah.
Signals in this system are not like our conversation. It's not by words.
Sure. Yeah.
Remember last time I was sharing Project Earth, little conversations with planet Earth. And there was, I think, question 14 was when we converse with you.
Yeah.
And every other human being answering this questionnaire in this exploration answered yes. But we do not converse with the planet in words. Actually, the whole trilogy, solar, planet, human, is connected by a system of numeric codings. See, in our culture, we use numbers only as their quantity, in the quantity aspect, in the quantity usage.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're very practical inclined. We need the numbers as a certain tool to do our commercial business, yeah, and earn money. Interesting to research how the zero came into our perception up until actually a few centuries ago. Professor Yuval Noah Harari, the Israeli historian, he speaks about it, that the zero was accepted into culture only when it reached the people in the marketplace, because religious people were against the idea of the zero, which means nothing or everything. So it's a totality. It's a totality within the void. When the people in the market realize that zero is very practical, because I might not have two cars, but if I know that I have zero car, then I know I have a position. Yeah, so it's already a position. It's already accepting the potentiality to have a car. If I don't have a zero, I didn't accept that potentiality at all. So I'm speaking about the zero just as an example that numbers are being used by our culture only in the quality, if I can say that like this. But actually in computer programming, numbers are information. Yeah, numbers are a numeric coding tells you something very exact if you know how to decodify it. So capturing the signal, which is part of synchronization, is just the beginning of the early establishment of two-way communication. This is the way observers update each other. The trilogy of sun, planet, humans, signals are numeric codings. They allow the synchronization between receptors. And when the receptors are interfered, there isn't a communication as such. This brings up another very important aspect. And I know that this is very fast and abstract, and there is many more pixels to open up in what I said, yeah? But yeah, but we will get to it in its moment. I'd like to introduce another two concepts that are part of this sequence. One concept is what is a calendar, actually. Because the calendar we use, even for this conversation, Julia, we set a time, a day, and a time, and a location, and the invitation is a Zoom to the Zoom is a numeric coding. And if there are letters in this sense are numeric codings.
Yeah.
Because it's not quantity, it's a logic. It's a logic. It's actually, when I pass to you the coding, it doesn't exist. Yeah. If let's say you tell me the latitude and the longitude of where you are located now, it doesn't mean that it is physical. Yeah. If we go
exactly
into the ground and
yeah,
we not find it there. It's not written, yeah, on the ground, the number. It's a logic. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a logic. So so calendars, solar and lunar calendars, and their logic is actually the way the trilogy shares their diaries. Exactly like humans. So if I was born in a certain place at a certain time, in a certain day, this was the synchronization of agendas, of diaries that let a new life start into the plane of existence. And when things are synchronized, they are what we call them organic. Yeah, so I go out to nature. This morning I went to a walk, and I saw that actually olives are going to be ripe very soon, which means that I need to get my things together to be able to prepare olives for the year. So this is organic. We do not consider that behind it, in the level of numeric codings, is a signal that is what we call automatic. What we call automatic or natural is simply the logic that we are not responsible for. So it happens, yeah? I didn't do anything in particular to cause the ripeness of the olives.
Absolutely. The season take care of it.
Yeah. So we have words that describe it: the season and nature, but actually all of these are numeric codings in the system that belong to different strata, and they update each other, exactly like in the immunity system, that after it has been attacked. It's not attack, yeah? We call it attack because we are very dramatic in our pathogenic perceptions. But when new information comes in, so it causes an update because of my response to the signal. Now we come to this time where new signals are arriving, and it becomes more apparent. Before it was less obvious, and all of a sudden it becomes more apparent that there is a signal coming in, and we have a choice to respond or not to respond, or how to respond. This is a time where big questions will appear, because humans simply find themselves without any preparation. Although naturally speaking, we see it all the time. The child gets the signals to its next step of development in a most natural, organic way. And you have ideologies that start to elaborate on this, such as the ideology that to not put pressure or not do things by power. Why not to do things by power? Because in a synchronized system, it should be a flow. And only when I want very fast to, let's say, I want to get fit, and it will happen if I follow a certain series of exercises through time, yeah, it will update itself. But if I want it in a week, then this is an execution of power on it. In this case, my willpower. But, you know, it's like people say, follow your dream, never stop following your dream. Now, if your dream is not synchronized with the whole system, it can lead you to a trap. Let's say, you know, the fish in the water wants to eat, and it sees a little fish, and here he swims and, you know, eats the fish. But all of a sudden, the fish is connected to how do you call it?
A fishing rod.
To a fishing rod, and it is out of the water.
Yeah.
Our marketing culture has developed a lot of knowledge and know-how about what I'm speaking about. It is simply all applied for people to fall into the trap, yeah?
To
For
use
us,
power. Yeah.
yeah,
To use
for
power
us to
against.
buy more.
It's another way to dominate.
Yeah, yeah,
Possibility of
yeah,
the
I
moment
agree.
as not to synchronize. You use a very interesting word, which is power, but actually it is a domination.
Yeah,
We
it's by
our
force. It's by force.
force. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm not saying here that you should sit passively and
Yeah,
do nothing. But I'm saying that there is a whole science, there's a whole unexplored science of capturing, translating, interpreting signals inside the triology. And this is very crucial in order to connect and observe and receive reality as an education, because this is what it is. Reality,
exactly.
yeah, reality is not a punishment.
Absolutely. Edith, I want
Reality
to,
is not a measure against you.
yeah. It's not a dominion upon the time on us.
Right.
Time is not how we perceive it.
Yeah.
Life is not how we perceive it. They don't have this power that we have over other people's choice. I want to stay for a while to something you brought up, which is I have a dream. The fish has a dream. There is, and how we don't have the keys to perceive and live by our realities. There is a long process of the last period of how badly we use our computer, especially when it comes to daydreaming. How we spoke the last time for the hijacking of emotions over our energies. And I believe one of the traps of the modern society is that we invest so much in a matrix that we create upon ourselves. And we use this fantastic machine instead of, like a good athlete knows, to project into the finishing line or to project into the next state to be, but openly, just visualize ourselves to the next moment and gathering the energy of it. We use and consume this moment to daydream about something that has no energy at all, no possibility for the next step. And I think it's one of the big obstacles of how we treat ourselves and the moment and the possibility of synchronization.
Yeah, I'd like to open up the mechanics of it, okay?
Please do. Yeah.
Because we have been narrow-minded for long centuries into a narrower and narrower perception of life. And the only way to develop, and the only way to grow, and the only way to widen our perception and expand it is to see what we don't see, which is outside our paradigm. So when something happens, rather than looking at it from my regular sequences and interpret it inside my paradigm, there should be a practice that looks at reality with the mindset of seeing what is it I don't see.
Fantastic.
And not putting on it a value right away into good or bad, or nice or not nice, or offended and respect and so on. So not to get into polarity right away, and then this inside my own matrix and doesn't expand any further.
Yeah.
We look at reality with an expectation that it should be like this or like that, because we lean on reference from the past. But this is only operating our instincts.
Our automatic.
Yeah.
Our automatic system. Yeah.
The instinct is designed to keep you existing. It's not designed to keep you evoluting. The one that will keep you evoluting, which means synchronize in an updated way to the system, is the intuition. And the intuition, its reference is in the future, because it deals with everything that hasn't happened yet, which is the definition of the future. Everything that hasn't happened, hasn't come into existence, is futuristic. So our education through, let's say, the hardship of reality, we had a teacher who used to say reality is a hard captain, yeah? Things happen to you either on a particular basis or collective, or to us as a nation or as a global structure. And they are our teacher, and they are our best teacher. Should the receptor be free and ready to capture the signals, the numeric codings that reality is bringing to us. And this is a whole new science that we do naturally, but didn't bring into consciousness. So in these days, when the planet is like doing its shift and needs partners to be like co-creators, it finds the humans dealing with
calculations.
Right.
Misusing the media.
Yeah.
To any mathematician or to any musician, artist, what you describe, it makes sense. They use a numeric structure to create what, if their creative self allows them to capture as the next.
Yeah. So it leads us to the receptor and how to neutralize or how to unwire interferences.
Right.
And this is a whole new area that it's very interesting to go into. But I think that it will be good to give a few more examples of how synchronization expresses in our daily life, because all of a sudden there are moments of neutrality, especially when waking up in the morning after the night process, which is another subject. Ideas come into our mind, perhaps a new unexpressed thought. Not many times it happens that you have a totally new unexpressed thought. And when I say unexpressed, never expressed, because this is originality. If we are connected to the origin, then what comes into our mind is originality. And this has never been expressed before. This is a sign of synchronicity. And then you have a thought, and the next thing is that something happens to you, and it either confirms or gives you further clue into what does it mean. You expect something to be a certain way, and then something happens in another way. And you can add it up into the unconscious or semi-conscious process in the processor of what is actually going on, what is reality telling me, that what it is showing that I don't see. And these are the news. When we watch the news, which is north, east, west, south, and we maybe will touch it later in some later conversation. So when we watch the news, we are actually seeing what reality wants us to see for a certain reason, with the eyes of evolution. If we watch the news with the eyes of, okay, let's say emotional imbalance, so I'm either angry about this person, or I want to protest, or but if we see all around a lot of bullshitting by politicians and other officials. Now you can stay at the level of this is bullshitting. This is not an original thought. This has been expressed before. I want to see what I don't see. Describe what are the conditionings inside the collective mind that causes this news to be like that. I'll give you an example. In Israel, there is a kibbutz near David in the northern part of Israel. So they got a swarm And after 70 years of taking care of the place, it's a beautiful, clean stream that is inside the kibbutz because they cannot live near a public park, yeah? So everybody will come and leave their garbage and so on. So people from the nearby neighborhood are very angry and they protest and they say they should open it and we should enjoy from nature as well. Now you can watch the news and there are big demonstrations and violence, and then they are speaking about each other and blaming each other and shaming each other and so on. But when I watch it, I see in it lessons from reality. A first lesson tells the Israeli, listen, you have a small country and you need to take care of nature. It's not a matter of developing another natural resource and, you know, go and leave your garbage there. It's actually a proposition of the signal is a new DNA that says you need to mature and take care of nature so that it can be reciprocal and you can have a reciprocal maintenance. But it's also a signal that tells the elite that has created for itself a beautiful place. It says to the elite, it's not enough that you have a beautiful place for yourself. You need to mature. You need to mature as well. And you need to synchronize, because the word that is like a more cultural expression of synchronicity would be coherence. Yeah, it needs to be coherent, that the elite and everybody else is connected in some way, in some safe way, and therefore the word cohesion comes from it. And this is an all-over signal of information, because on a global scan, you can see how the coronavirus has emphasized that more resources are in the hands of less and less people.
Yeah, yeah. This was my
Now,
reading.
I'm not speaking about an ideology. Yeah, I'm not speaking now, let's go back to communism, socialism, and all the rest. I'm speaking about an organic reality with no ideals. It's not an ideal. It's a decoding of reality as it happens. Now, I am sure, I'm totally positive that this disaster in Nir David, in Kibbutz Nir David, is going to promote new potentials into the Israeli perceptor and be processed in a way that it will be a resource for evolution. Because the Israeli, if he doesn't see what he doesn't see, then we will get another worse disaster to watch on the news of our life, on the news, on TV, on every possible screen, because this is how we share information in our culture. So this is just an example. You can watch the news and say, whoa, what is happening? they are right, and be part of the polarization. This is more of the same. It's actually a metastasis, and it's actually fixing the interference inside the receptor. So we do have examples in our life when all of a sudden we looked at something and we see it in a way we haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
And it tells us something that we haven't deciphered yet. If you do it on your particular personal life, then this is a small revelation and you expand your own consciousness. And if you do it on and if it happens on more of a social arena and even global understanding, it can expand the consciousness of the whole world. And when it does, if it's synchronized with the trilogy of diaries, then this is news for the planet, and this is news for the sun, which are looking and are expecting news after they've been investing and financing organic life on planet Earth. So I think for this conversation, we have reached the point of opening up, as you suggested, the notion of synchronization and calibration.
It was a fantastic morning process, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, me too.
And be ready, because it springs more questions.
Sure, sure. This is an organic procedure, and I'm very happy it does. So thank you for your time and partnership, and yeah, we'll see each other in the next.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Beseder.